Hello everyone and welcome back to Carvenus 14. Now today we are going to be doing another Wuthering Waves video, but it's going to be on Jinhsi once again, obviously. I mean, who else would it be other than Jinhsi? Yeah. Now, I want to discuss an issue that Jinhsi seems to have. What is the issue? Is she not doing enough damage? I don't think anyone's ever said that before. Is she not tall enough? That's not an issue either. Is it because she's a Broadblade user? No. Why would I have anything against the weapon? Is her attack combo not nice? No. She has one of the smoothest, most loveliest, satisfying combos to do in the entire game, and I stand by that to this day. Right. But it's an issue that Jinhsi only seems to have. Alright. Only Jinhsi seems to have this issue. Oh my god, there we go, perfect. Yeah. Now, what is the issue I'm talking about? Well, it's simple. Jinhsi doesn't seem to have a best-in-slot teammate. Now, I know what you're thinking. What on earth does that mean? Well, it's actually relatively simple. If you look at all of the limited 5-star DPSs, right, you can actually see that they all have a perfect, you know, support. Right? They all have a perfect support to actually go with, okay? Now, who would the perfect support for Jinhsi be? Well, the best support that Jinhsi can actually use, or sub-DPS I should be saying, is actually Jinhsi. But you see, Jinhsi is going to be moved out from Jinhsi's team at some point, because, spoiler alert, I don't know if you guys want to know anything about leaks or anything, but just to let you know, I do follow leaks, so there will be some mentions of leaks, not in all of my videos, but some of them when I have to talk about them, so yeah, a bit of a spoiler warning for those of you guys that don't want to know about, you know, character kits and stuff like that, but, Jinhsi's new best-in-slot DPS is actually going to be Carlotta, because Carlotta actually mainly does resonant skill damage, right? And she's also a Glacio unit, and what does Jinhsi buff? Exactly, resonant skill damage as well as Glacio damage bonus. So if you have Carlotta and Jinhsi is going to be so much better on Carlotta team simply because she can boost Carlotta's damage more than she can with Jinhsi.
May I pray for anything specific for you?
Yes, they are both resonant skill damage dealers, but Carlotta being Glacio and dealing Glacio damage, obviously Jinhsi is much better fit for her. Now, I'm going to be honest, when I did first see Jinhsi's kit and people said that Jinhsi was going to be the next best-in-slot support for Jinhsi, I thought that was wrong, because she doesn't buff Spectra damage in any way, and she doesn't even buff attack percent in any other way, apart from her S4, which is quite far down the skill tree, the sequence tree, right? So all she really did was increase, you know, Jinhsi's resonant skill damage bonus, and give a high amount of, you know, what's it called? Incandescent stacks. Yeah. Now, why is this a problem? Because obviously, if you can only have one Jinhsi per account, right? You can only have one Jinhsi for each account. You have one Jinhsi at each account, and you have one Carlotta each account. If you have both Carlotta and Jinhsi, which some free-to-play players do actually have multiple 5-star DPSs, right? Like, they'll obviously, some people might have Jinhsi as well as obviously Zhang Liao if they've been playing on 1.2, but they might also have thought about pulling for Camellia, right? Yeah, some free-to-play players do like pulling a lot of 5-star limited characters, and obviously there's the whales, right? Yeah, and the dolphin players. So
I'm sure your wishes will come true.
Not everyone plays the game like me. Personally, I don't really care that much about Tower of Adversity, right? I really don't. I'm not a huge fan of these Spiral Abyss and Tower of Adversity style modes. In this game, I do actually make an exception, though, because I at least complete one side of the, you know, one side of the tower, either the right side, the left side, or the middle side. I don't really go beyond that, simply because I just don't really care that much about Tower of Adversity. But in this game, I did make a special exception to just do it for once, right? Simply because, you know, the combat is just really fun. Yeah, but I like Jinhsi. The Jinhsi team is the only team I really have built, right? That's just the way I play the game. I like only having one main DPS and one support, and also another sub DPS for the perfect team. That's basically it, right? So, yeah, if I had to, you know, make a new team, I would probably replace Jinhsi with a new DPS. That's simply how I would work. I don't really like playing the game where I have two fully built DPSs. I'm just not a huge fan of that, right? Yeah, just personal preference, really, not really a special reason against it. But yeah, I'd much rather have one powerhouse than two powerhouses, simply because you know,
may I pray for anything specific for you? It would be my honor. Well, it's not too much effort.
It's just I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that you're just built with.
I'm sure your wishes will come true.
Like, same in Genshin. I only have, you know, one team fully built, like Arlecchino, and I don't really have any other team. That's it, basically. So yeah, one main team. So I don't really use it for Spiral Abyss or anything like that. So yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, that's enough about my personal preferences. So if you have Zheji and you have Jinhsi and you have Carlotta, Zheji is going to be moved over to Carlotta's team. Right, because obviously Zheji just much better suits Carlotta's, you know, voice of play style, and she boosts more on Carlotta than she does with Jinhsi. So, what happens to Jinhsi? Well, it's simple. Your Jinhsi now doesn't have a great support. Well, that's wrong, because, you know, I don't have Zheji and I'm using Yuan Wu, so that's not an issue. Yes, it does mean you have to build Yuan Wu, but guess what? Yuan Wu, from his own kit, does not do anything for Jinhsi, and I'm saying that because look at Yuan Wu's kit.
May I pray for anything?
All right.
Anything I can help you with?
So his passives are, yeah, the damage multiplier of his resonance skill is increased by 40%, so just more damage, right? That's not buffing Jinhsi. And this one just increases the actual area that his elemental skill is, right? And it's actually a pretty decent size. So yes, this is technically buffing Jinhsi because it gives her more room to work with to get more incandescent stacks and stuff, right? But you see, the thing is it doesn't directly buff Jinhsi, okay? Yeah, then there's his outro skill, which just increases a massive amount of vibration strength damage, effectively. You know, the bar underneath the opponent's health bar, the stagger bar, effectively? Yeah, that's what he does. Yuan Wu specializes in deleting a lot of the enemy's vibration strength, right? Yeah, which, to be fair, it's not actually a bad perk to have, but the thing is that it's not really that well flushed out on Yuan Wu, and Yuan Wu, he's not a top tier DPS, he's more of a sub DPS, so unless there's a DPS character, or even a better, you know, version of Yuan Wu that comes out in the future, no one will really be able to use this perk that much, and it's not really that explored in the game as of right now. Yeah. So his outro skill and his passives don't really buff, you know, Zheji. His elemental skill doesn't either. And as for his sequences, well, his first one just increases his attack speed and, yeah, just his attack speed, really. His S2 basically allows him to recover more energy, so, you know, you're able to, what's it called? You know, use his burst more often. Then... yeah, so this one basically makes it so that whenever his coordinated attack within his elemental skill hits an opponent, the damage of the coordinated attack is increased by 20% of Yuan Wu's defense, right? Yeah, in fact, I have my Yuan Wu on a full defense build. That, yeah, I don't really have him with electro damage bonus, I just have him on a full defense build. And then the S4, basically, it's the supportive constellation, because every single character in the game has one supportive constellation that benefits everyone in the team, and that includes themselves, right? So Yuan Wu's one is, well, basically, after he uses Resonance Liberation, the character on the field will gain a 200% shield, right, scaling off of Yuan Wu's defense for 10 seconds, which is very helpful, don't get me wrong, but Jinhsi doesn't need a shield, and the reason I say that is because Jinhsi is airborne for most of her, in fact, all of her combo time, right? You're airborne all the time, right? Because Jinhsi's resonance skill, it puts her up into the air, and then you can use the grappling hook, right, in order to get you to an even higher point. So most enemies, if not all enemies, I would actually like to say, can't really reach you. Yeah, there are some enemies like the Impertinence Heron with that one attack, and the Morning Ix with that homing missile of an attack she does, and the tactical hologram. So, yeah, there's that. Also, I'm not sure, but I think the Fallacy of No Return has a hammer attack that actually hits you in the sky if you're in the hitbox of it. So, yeah, but Jinhsi doesn't really need this simply because she doesn't have a problem with survivability since she's in the air most of the time, right? Yeah. And then this skill doesn't really do anything, it just increases Yuanwu's liberation damage bonus, right? And all party members within the range of Resonance skill gain 32% defense increase. So, yeah. Another constellation, or another sequence, I should say, that doesn't do anything for Jinhsi's own damage. In fact, the only buffing capabilities that Yuanwu can actually give is through his Echo Set.
Anything I can help you with?
Now, of course, I am running a different Echo set and a different weapon set because the meta build is effectively you want to run Yuan Wu, okay, with you know, what is it, the Bellborn and the Moonlit Cloud set while also having the Originite weapon. I'm not doing that simply because no. So yeah, I'm not doing that because I like using my Yuan Wu to deal on-field damage because his combos are sick as heck. I mean, have you seen the guy's punches and kicks? It's actually pretty insane. So, yeah. Now. So, yeah, effectively, the Moonlit Cloud set, what it does is basically, upon triggering your outro skill, you increase the attack of the next Resonator. Now, by how much? Do forgive me, these pieces are completely awful, and I'm trying to get better pieces. But, yeah. Basically, what the actual set does is it will increase the next Resonator's attack by 22.5% for 15 seconds after you use, you know, you use an outro skill. And then there's the Impertinence Heron, which basically makes it so that you deal damage, right? And then there's a long press, so yeah. And then once the initial attack lands on the enemy, the current character regains 10 resonance energy. If the current character uses their outro skill within the next 15 seconds, the next character's damage dealt is boosted by 12%. So basically, this is all Yuanwu is really doing in terms of buffing Jinhsi, giving me 22.5% attack bonus and a 12% increased damage dealt. That's literally all Yuanwu is doing, right? Yeah. Now, you see, there isn't really anyone else in the game that can boost Jinhsi's damage, right? I mean, of course there is Verena, right? And Verena is used on the team, but I mean like a sub DPS, right? Yeah, I mean, think about it. Well, Ji-Yan does have a sub DPS in the form of Mortefi, who boosts his heavy attack. Now, to be fair, Mortefi still isn't perfect, simply because of the fact that Mortefi doesn't give aero damage bonus, and I would think someone like, you know, Ji-Yan, you'd want heavy attack bonus, as well as, you know, aero damage bonus. So until the next aero sub DPS that comes out, hopefully there'll be a perfect buffer for Ji-Yan. But still, he's in a better position than, you know, Jinhsi, right? Yeah. So Jinhsi doesn't really have anyone. And then you've got Chang Li, I mean, yeah, Yin Lin, but Yin Lin is a sub DPS. Chang Li is also, she's more of a quick swap / sub DPS really, because she wants to be used in dual DPS teams, like, you know, Zhang Liao and Chang Li, or, you know, Chang Li and, heck, you could even do it with Jinhsi as well if you, kind of, not really though, but, you know, yeah. Yeah, you can go Yin Lin, Chang Li, and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting, honestly, with what you can do with Chang Li. So, yeah, she's not really a true DPS. She's more of a quick swap DPS. So she doesn't follow the same archetype that, you know, Ji-Yan, Jinhsi, Camellia,
I'm sure your wishes will come true.
Yeah. So, yeah, then we look at 1.2 characters. Well, we have Zhang Liao, and guess what? Zhang Liao does have a best-in-slot sub-DPS, Yin Lin. Yin Lin boosts resonance liberation damage and also electro damage bonus. And what does, you know, Zhang Liao do? His main form of damage is resonance liberation damage, and he's an electro unit as well. So, literally the perfect sub DPS for you know, Zhang Liao. Yeah. And then after Zhang Liao, you had 1.3, which you didn't really get a DPS. So then you have Camellia, okay? Now, Camellia, yes, I know what you're thinking. Well, she doesn't have a best-in-slot support. She does. And another spoiler alert, okay? Another bit of a spoiler alert. In patch 2.0, a character called Rochia is coming out, okay? But first things first, Camellia's best in slot support right now is Sanhua, right? Because she boosts basic attack damage by a whopping 32% or something like that. Yeah. And then there's also her, what's it called? Her, you know, Danjin, that's it. Danjin boosts heavy attack, havoc damage bonus. Yeah. The thing is, you have to run either or, you can't really run both. But Rochia is supposed to be able to buff havoc damage bonus and basic attack damage bonus. Yeah, and Rochia is a sub DPS, right? So yeah, Camilla is getting her best in slot, or best in slot sub DPS effectively, as well as Carlotta coming out to fulfill Jeji's best in slot sub DPS role. So yeah, basically, from what I've said, all of the full true DPS characters,
may I pray for anything specific
they all
for you?
have a
It
best
would be
in
my
slot
honor.
sub DPS. Except Jinhsi, there isn't anyone that's going to come. There isn't
I'm
anyone
sure your
to
wishes
come
will
out,
come true.
right? That has resonant skill damage bonus and spectra damage bonus, or attack percent or boost, or anything like that, right? And that is actually kind of an issue as where Jinhsi only has, right? Because if you guys didn't know, Jinxi's incandescent stacks want her to have as many different elemental teammates on the team. Jinhsi wants to be on a rainbow team effectively, right? You don't really want to be on a team where there's two of the same element, because you won't be able to stack as many incandescent stacks. Oh yeah, well, why is Verena on the team then? Verena's a special case, simply because Verena provides coordinated attacks, right? So she fulfills that side of the role, okay? She fulfills that part of the Spectro equation, right? So Jinhsi does the Spectro damage, whereas Verena will provide the Spectro coordinated attacks. So together, they both give 3 instances to each other, right? But Verena's burst is also, she gives you damage amplification from her outro skill, attack percent increase, and stuff like that. So she's just overall a really, really good unit to have on the team anyway. Yeah, Shorekeeper is only viable if you have someone like Jeji, but once Jeji is moved over to Carlotta, your Shorekeeper won't do anything for Jinhsi. So you have to go back to someone like Yuan Wu, who is unreliable because you need to be in his zone, right? Which, obviously, it's not that bad if you are able to stay in his zone, but against the more mobile bosses, I have had issues sometimes where the bosses just move away from Yuan Wu's zone, and I have to try and fly over and catch up to them, right? Reposition Yuan Wu's thing, which isn't even that, you know, which is not really great because I'm wasting field time now, and yeah. And then you've got Yinlin. Okay, yeah, Yinlin. But now, why use Yinlin on Jinxi's team when she's so much better suited for Zhang Liao's team? Oh yeah, well, not everyone has Zhang Liao. Everyone will have Zhang Liao. I'm pretty sure most players in the game have Zhang Liao, because 1.2 was where a lot of players did actually end up joining the game. So, Zhang Liao is pretty much acquired by most of the player base, right? Yeah. So, you're much better off using Yinlin for someone like Zhang Liao. So, the issue here is if you're like me, right, who doesn't use any other team apart from just the Jinhsi team, then you might have a space for Yinlin or something like that. But you see what I mean? Like, once Carlotta comes out, Jeji will be moved over to your Carlotta team, and everything is, you know, just gonna fall apart. Shorekeeper can't really be used on Jinhsi teams anymore, simply because everyone else is kind of unreliable or takes too long to, you know, to get their coordinated attacks out, right? And, you know, Jinhsi just is left with a much lower damage ceiling now without Jeji. Now, does this problem affect me? No, because I've never used Jeji or Yinlin. I've only used Yuan Wu since the beginning, effectively. So it doesn't really affect me that much, but of course, all of this is hypothetical, right? Carlotta still isn't out yet, and yeah, that's about it, really. So, yeah, Carlotta still isn't out yet, but I'm pretty sure this is going to happen, right? Once Carlotta comes out, Jeji will be used on Carlotta teams, and Jinhsi won't have really another great sub-DPS, right? Yuan Wu, yes, but he doesn't really provide a lot of buffs. Yinlin doesn't even buff Jeji that much either, apart from the Resonance Liberation bonus, which is not most of her damage it's not most of her damage pie chart, right? It doesn't really take up, you know, it's like a quarter of the damage that she can really do from her Resonance Liberation. Most of it is coming from her skills. So, yeah, that's the issue, right? Jinhsi is in a very, very unique and annoying position to the point where she needs a resonant skill damage bonus amplifier, right? Like other units, right? But she also needs Spectra damage bonus increase. But who on earth would be able to provide Spectra damage bonus increase outside of Spectra units? And remember, Jinhsi can't use another Spectra unit unless they provide coordinated attack. So unless another Verena comes out, right, there's no real, you know, unit to come out that will buff Jinhsi. Okay? Yeah. Which is a real shame because Verena just got a replacement in the form of Shorekeeper. Not a true one-to-one replacement because of the lack of coordinated attacks, but still, honestly, like, it's put Jinhsi in a very difficult position because the release of Carlotta will definitely mean that people would use Zheji more on Carlotta teams, right, rather than Jinhsi teams. So this has actually put Jinhsi in a very, very difficult position, right? She's now left stranded without her best in-slot sub-DPS, okay? Not really best in-slot sub-DPS. I mean, she is the best in-slot sub-DPS as of right now because, you know, no one else really fulfills the requirements that Jinhsi wants. As much as Zheji does. Even she's not perfect. I knew that she was going to get replaced or moved over to another team one day, but I didn't think it'd be this soon. Yeah. So, this is an issue that, you know, Jinhsi seems to have. A sub-DPS is needed for her that can boost Spectra damage bonus as well. Well, to be fair, it doesn't strictly need to be Spectra damage bonus, because Jinhsi already gets a load of damage bonus in her own kit.
May I pray
like
for
attack
anything
would be
specific
really nice.
for you?
Yeah, like
It
attack
would be
percent
my honor.
or, you know, something else, right? Attack percent increase would be nice. Like resonant skill
I'm
damage
sure
bonus
your
as well
wishes
as an
will come
attack percent
true.
increase. That would be really, really nice, right? Yeah. Or maybe just Spectra damage bonus. But like I said, only a unit that is a Spectro-aligned element can give Spectra damage bonus. And of course, Jinhsi doesn't want to be on a team which is complete Spectro because she won't be able to get her incandescent stats. Verena is the only acceptable one simply because Verena provides coordinated attacks. So, yeah. And if you have a sub-DPS that is Spectra and provides coordinated attacks, that means Verena will be useless. Because now she's not providing anything apart from healing, right? Yeah. Healing and the buffs. But you're much better off going another healer like Bai Zhe in that case. Yeah. Which, you see, it's a real kerfuffle how Carlotta seems to have come out, moved Zheji out, and created so many more problems for Jinhsi. Of course, all of these problems can be avoided by just not pulling for Carlotta, but, of course, that's not really a thing. Now, am I over-exaggerating things? You could say, yeah, because there's a lot of things that specifically need to happen. Number one, you need to have Jinhsi. Number two, you need to have Zheji, who some people won't have because she came out right after Jinhsi's patch, right, in quite close proximity as well. And number three, you also need to be convinced into pulling Carlotta, right? Yeah, so there's a lot of things that do need to happen, okay, for this to actually be an issue for you, right? But for me, it's not really that big of a deal because I've never had Zheji on my team, so I mean, I don't have Zheji on my account, period, right?
May I pray for anything specific
so
for you?
That's the
it
thing.
Would be my
right?
honor.
Basically, if you are using Jinhsi
I'm
with
sure your wishes
Zheji
will
and
come
Jinhsi
true.
together and you want to get Carlotta, just expect that Jinhsi might not be as strong as she used to be when Zheji was on her team. If you're doing Tower of Adversity, or, you know, the tactical holograms or anything like that, right? Yeah. So did I overinflate this video a little bit? Yes, you could definitely say that because there are some things that definitely need to happen in order for this to really be an issue for you. But what I'm trying to say is this is just an awareness video for you guys, right? Because I don't see a lot of people talking about this. Once Carlotta comes out, okay, Jinhsi's main meta team, Jinhsi, Shorekeeper, Zheji, alright, will crumble. Simply because, you know, Shorekeeper would probably want to move over to, you know, Carlotta's team, simply because, well, Shorekeeper buffs everyone, and she buffs Jinhsi the least, right? Simply because she, you know, Jinhsi mainly relies on her incandescent stacks and Shorekeeper can't provide any, right? So yeah, Jinhsi's meta team will literally crumble when Carlotta comes out effectively. So you could technically say that when Carlotta drops, she will quite literally take away a portion of Jinshi's power, right, in actual showcases and damage testing and stuff like that, right? Yeah, because she'll take away Zheji, and obviously, without Zheji, Shorekeeper will really not do anything for you. The only reason Shorekeeper is good in Jinshi teams is if you have Zheji, right? Shorekeeper is the only unit that's Zheji is the only unit that's really holding Shorekeeper to Jinshi teams. But without another good unit that can provide a high amount of coordinated attacks, as well as in such a long duration, Shorekeeper really loses a lot of her value here, right? Yeah, because of the fact that she's unable to give any incandescent stats. Oh yeah, well there's the damage amplification, and there's also the attack percent increase, and there's the crit rate and crit damage boost that you get. That is honestly nothing compared to how much damage you will lose without the incandescent stacks. So yeah, especially if you have higher sequences of Jinshi, each incandescent stacks literally becomes a diamond that you're trying to find, right? If you don't find all 50 of those diamonds, the value you lose will be insurmountable, honestly. Yeah, so honestly, losing Zheji definitely hurts Jinshi a lot, because of the fact that her best team is now, you know, not really going to be there anymore, so you'll have to go towards something a bit more free to play. Yeah, but
I'm sure
of course, this is more of a discussion video, and this is more of a theory as to why I think when Carlotta comes out, it's going to hurt Jinshi quite a bit, okay? But of course, at the end of the day, it is still a game, and of course, maybe some of the things I've said might not even matter once Carlotta actually comes out, and she might, you know, not like... That's a lie. Zheji's definitely going to be wanted on Carlotta teams. But yeah, this is just a discussion video at the end of the day, guys. Do let me know of your opinions in the below, if you agree or if you disagree, if I overinflated things a little bit too much or not. But do say, because I haven't really seen a lot of people talking about this, and to be fair, I feel as though I'm the only YouTuber really talking about these Jinshi topics. I don't really see a lot of people, the popular people and even some of the not so popular people, they're not really talking about you know, these issues that Zheji might come across, right? So if I need to be the only person flagging out these issues that Jinshi will have in the future or even now, I will happily be that person, simply because I plan on taking Jinshi quite far. I do want to S6 R5 her, so yeah, let's hope and pray that we can get to a position where that does happen effectively. And who knows, I might be the only Jinshi main when the game is in like patch 3.0 or 4.0 or something like that, right? Yeah. But anyway, guys, that's basically been it for this video. I have been Carvenus14 and still am, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you all very soon. Goodbye.